Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the SuperNova Astrology Update for May 8th through 15th, 2023. Well, we are still coming out of the really intense lunar eclipse that happened on May 5th. And so all of last week, we've had our personal planets in square to big player planets. First, Mercury squared up with Black Moon Lilith retrograde, and then Mars squared up with Chiron, and then Venus squared up with Neptune. So we are, and then for the eclipse, we had the Sun in a square with Black Moon Lilith and a T square with the Moon. So a lot of intense tension energy plus the Scorpio energy and eclipse energy, Mercury retrograde, drudging up energies from the past, deep emotional and dark places that have been hiding our light for far too long. Not fun. And yet now we move into a new chapter. Because as of today, the Venus square Neptune, that was a really difficult transit. Pressure, feelings like Venus in Gemini, the voice of the feminine, silenced, and going up against programming and stories of the Piscean age. Just feeling like, I thought I was getting somewhere, back to that feeling of defeat, hopelessness, the impossibility of getting out of these old patterns. And yet that is exactly that energy that took us to those darkest places to bring the light back in. So now we're having all of those squares have resolved. And the next thing we're feeling is the sun now coming out of that chokehold of square with Black Moon Lilith, now coming into a conjunction with Uranus. Now, this is really potent because we know that Mercury made it to 15 degrees Taurus before turning retrograde. And Uranus at that time was at 17 degrees Taurus. So they came 2 degrees apart, which is officially a conjunction, but not exact. And then Mercury took the retrograde. So it says that everything that this Mercury retrograde is about has to do with this Uranus in Taurus. Now, there was definitely an energy when the nodes of the moon moved into the signs of Uranus and Taurus just over a year ago. Of Taurus, North Node Taurus, South Node Scorpio, that the nodes of the moon in these signs would be breaking open and activating the Uranus. What is this Uranus and Taurus all about? Now, Uranus is making it to 19 degrees of Taurus this week, as far as Uranus has made it into Taurus. So that third, coming to the last part of the sign. And so we're also having the North Node in Taurus 2 more months until the nodes of the moon change signs. So we've got Uranus coming to the last part or the second half, and then the North Node coming to making it to 3 degrees this week, coming to the last couple of degrees of the North Node in Taurus. So this Taurus eclipse, we had a Taurus, with all of these planets, a stellium of planets in Taurus for this eclipse, across from Scorpio, the moon in Scorpio. And it's saying we have got to quit running from the darkness that has been keeping us from coming into the abundance of who we really are. And we're getting a massive activation in this week as the sun comes up to Uranus. So Uranus is higher frequency vibration. It's the ruler of Aquarius. And so it was discovered at the time of electricity. And it's interesting because Uranus to me is always the energy of it seems to be about your ancient past, wisdom from the ancient past of who you are as a soul in higher evolutionary experiences, and wisdom of the future and technology, future technology, which maybe they're the same, you know? And so that if you even look at the symbol of Uranus, it's like the Pisces sign, but then with putting it on top of a person. And it represents the higher self, what we can't access, wisdom that is not accessible to us in our everyday life. So the sun, who we think we are in Taurus, now in Taurus, we're looking at, do we deserve who we are? Are we good enough? Are we worthy of our own spiritual abundance? And so that sun coming to this activation energy. So Uranus and Taurus seems to be about higher frequency vibrations embodied in the physical body. And this is indeed what we're finding this spiritual ascension is really about, not leaving this place, but bringing heaven here, embodying. In fact, in the Edgar Casey readings again and again came through that the church, the temple, the house of God in this experience here is the body. We are the second coming of Christ consciousness as we embody our robe of light. So the Sun Uranus coming together exact on the 9th tomorrow. And this is kind of a high vibrational, like, hey, are you getting it yet? I mean, okay, so supernova souls have spent this whole life being like, what in the heck is going on here? You know, it's like, I don't see anybody else like me. And who am I and what's going on? And how did I get quarantined into this strange place where nobody seems to acknowledge the bigger truth of who we are? And in fact, when you try to, you are made fun of and cast aside. So now we're coming to an unmistakable activation, the truth of who we are in our higher frequency vibration. And for supernova souls, our ability and experience already in embodying the light. We've already done this. We've already had access. This is the mysteries of the ancient past and the future technology. We've already worked with it. You know, the only thing that holds this whole lie, house of cards delusion in place in the control energies, controlling humanity's evolution, the only way that can happen is as long as supernova souls don't know who they really are. And here we are, we're on the cutting edge. And it's a very strange and uncomfortable and kind of scary place, all alone out there in the cutting edge, not knowing what we're doing and yet feeling pushed. So the energy of shift and change that's coming, starting right now that these squares have come off, very powerful. So let's talk it through, because first we've got this Sun Uranus activation, and Mercury turns direct on the 15th. So this is the last week of Mercury retrograde, and you can feel in the air. It's like, it's interesting, the timing of the Derby races, because it's like supernova souls are definitely feeling like a horse at the gate. We've used this expression, right? Like waiting for the gate to open. Let me out of here, you know? And yet we've had these experiences of when that gate does open, when you do claim that freedom for yourself, how easy it is to go create another prison on a different level, not even realizing we're doing it. And so it's kind of like this last 6 months has all been about this, because it's this journey of Pluto leaving Capricorn and moving into Aquarius. So Pluto's at 0 degrees Aquarius, poised on the edge of a new age. And yet that's as far as Pluto will make it, and already has turned retrograde on the 2nd of May. So this started this next chapter, because this that Pluto turning retrograde means Pluto's heading back into Capricorn. And so this whole thing is about completing. It's like, you thought you were free. You thought you were breaking free. You thought you were living your life, and still you're living the dictates of those around you and the agendas, the lower agendas of this world. This is what we're realizing. And it's this sick feeling inside of how we've played along with total evil. It's kind of what we're finding out. And as we have these disclosures in the world, it's a difficult place to recognize, and yet that we've been playing along and conceding our world, our reality, our power to lower forces, while we're saying and preaching that we're spiritual people. This is the reckoning, the reconciliation that we're going through right now, and it's a sorting out of energies. But it doesn't come without that uncomfortable feeling of self-reflection and realizing the role we've played in our own demise. Except we're still here. And there is a power growing. Okay, so very interesting astrology right now, because we are in the shift of preparing for Mercury to go direct. We are ready to run with what we've been working on. We're ready to completely escape that prison. And we're getting this massive activation with the sun coming up with Uranus. Like, oh yeah, you think you know who you are? And that is triggering. Actually, it's interesting because here we are at the gate getting ready to go, but then the Sun Uranus, this type of activation can trigger the fear programming that we all have, because it really comes down to this. We've all played small. We all forgot who we are. We all agreed to play this game. And the way that we've continued to play it for so long has to do with this fear programming, that we get to the threshold of breaking through the lower matrix of the lower psychological games of where we've been playing along with the agendas, and we're just about to break free to a higher dimensional reality, and then we get knocked back down. And often that has to do with this fear programming that we've been programmed with. Go back to the story. It all started in Atlantean time when the sons of Baal took charge, infiltrated. And this is the same force we're working against today. And so the design, the program, the story was to trap and enslave advanced souls who might remember who they really are through trauma and programming and guilt and shame. And what if we had absolutely nothing to do with those Atlantean catastrophes? But we bought into our psyche. So the deal is that there was a very high, exalted, beautiful spiritual priesthood in Atlantean time, where we were working with technology way beyond what we have today. And we have this soul memory within us. And part of the travesty of this time is the stolen memories. And so we are waking up and remembering this technology we have access to in our very own body. And that's really the key here. So these forces, so we were in a position as this this cutting edge, working with cutting edge technology in the Atlantean time, and trusting there was systems set up to very much support research. It was one of the only times for supernova souls in past lives that I've seen this great satisfaction in your work, where you felt like you were really doing what you came here to do. Because we did bring this technology, but we brought it in our own bodies, and we were working with it in coordination with the natural world, with geometry, sound, color, and basically the integration of natural form as a way to create systems and technologies that can support humanity. It was very exciting work, and it was fully supported. But then there was an infiltration. So we were in a place of trusting those structures that were supporting this work in Atlantean time. Then those structures were infiltrated, and we made contractual arrangements unknowingly with lower forces that are seeking to have sought and have successful up to this point of controlling humanity. So we made these contractual arrangements, and very, very intense ones, through ritual and initiate mystery schools, and through the authority of the time. We made these contractual arrangements that we allowed those structures to have authority over us, because they were supporting the true work of what we were here to do. But they were infiltrated like everything else, you know. So every spiritual organization, I know we've all tried to find that spiritual community. And the minute that light tries to come together, infiltrating forces will find a way in to divide people, turn them against each other. And so this is an old story, right? But we have to understand that these are the authority contracts we came here to break, saying, You pretended to be in my best interest. Now I see that it's the exact opposite, and I will no longer hand over my authority to you. And this is the powerful place that we're at, because we're representing humanity standing up to the control forces right now. When we say, you don't have control over me, you are not the boss of me. I'm a sovereign soul. And now I take back my power, my reality. But that means overcoming all that fear programming. It literally says, if you go further in your Kundalini awakening, you're going to cause a catastrophe. Now, one of the things that continues to be more and more clear throughout time is that these catastrophes, it's like we've been programmed and controlled through these catastrophes, and that Mother Earth, told that Mother Earth or God is mad at us. And we've done something wrong. And so we associated the technology in our very own bodies with destruction. And when we get anywhere close to that technology, that fear programming comes in, anxiety from out of nowhere, attack from lower forces, and we jump right back down into our hole to hide some more. But we're overcoming all of this. One by one, supernova souls are jumping up out of this story. And I have to say, the group work that we've been doing together in the new and full moon activations, the soul group sessions, very powerful ways to address these issues. So we can claim back our autonomy, because this is a very important thing coming through right now. The technology that we've been programmed to fear. Okay, so the technology that we brought to the earth as supernova souls is in our very own body. Then a small amount of those control forces use that technology, develop that technology as a weapon to cause catastrophes. This is directed energy weapons, the same thing we're dealing with today, controlling the weather and creating earthquakes and trauma, trying to keep humanity in fear and trauma. When we're in fear and trauma, we can't access our creative forces, our God-given right, the God within us. That's exactly where they want us, in fear and trauma, a controllable human race. But you know what? It's not taking hold. And you could see through this whole contrived nightmare of the last couple of years, medical nightmare, as an excuse to be able to inject us with technology, the same technology used against us again, because the fear and trauma is no longer working. So now they need to try to program and control humanity through technology. And that's not going to work either, because we know who wins and we've already won. But it's hard in these times of total isolation. We're in a really intense, back to a psychic quarantine feeling. Where advanced souls, if you're pushing the limit on this, then there's forces that want to keep you absolutely away from other souls that could be awakened by your awakening. And they want us to feel completely alone and scared, and like and really we have been quarantined in a Groundhog Day type of situation, thinking that we're evolving as humans, and yet we're just succumbing to the seductive energy of technology, making that God. But the really important information that seems to be the message coming through today, not at all what I plan to talk about, but that's how this intuitive work is. We'll get to the astrology, but for supernova souls that are here dancing on the edge, continuing to find themselves pushed back down into this quarantine, pushed back down to the shame, pushed back down into this intense isolation, what part of you has bought into this story? Because we've really got to correct this story. The technology, yes, we did bring the technology that caused destruction, but the technology we brought was in for use only in our very own body. The only time that this technology can be dangerous to other souls or to the planet and destructive is when it's used with mechanisms outside. So what happened in Atlantean time was there's a movement towards amplification technologies, devices that would amplify the power of the human soul. Now, that was the beginning of the destructive forces that have been keeping us scared, alone, trapped, and quarantined for so long. So we really have to understand that there's no choice, that we're activating. The energies are like off the charts coming in, and we don't, it's not like we're seeking out this activation, this spiritual awakening. It's just happening to us. So you can see how that fear programming is designed to keep us on the threshold, you know? And so there's just something important for supernova's souls to know, that you did not misuse this technology. You would never have in a million years in your karmic advancement want to cause harm to other souls and humans and the earth. It would just, it doesn't fit who you are. So you got to stop carrying this shame, because the shame is keeping you knocked back down into that place of ineffectual, into that place of unable to reach out beyond. And this is what's so intense for supernova souls, because on the one hand, we have this Sun Uranus activation. Who do you think you are? Who are you really? Flash of light. You know, those mystical experiences we've all had, and it just happens in a moment, but you can't unsee what you've seen. And this Sun Uranus is like, boom, this is who you are. And it's so exciting to move back into these energies, that we are being catapulted out of, through the fear, just moving right through it, you know. But everything from our deep subconscious that's been hiding this fear and keeping us in these stories is coming up, especially with this eclipse season and Mercury retrograde. So, coupled with this activation of who we really are in a bright light realization scenario, we also have Jupiter coming to the end degrees of Aries. Now, Jupiter moved into Aries last May, moved back into Capricorn, into Pisces, and then into Aries right at the beginning of this year. Jupiter in Aries is bringing that horse at the gate, that let's run with it. We got to go now. We got to move. We got to claim our freedom and our autonomy. And this fire in the belly, you know, of like, how dare you keep me prisoner from my own power, my own energy. I'm going to live the life I was meant to live and get the F out of the way, right? So this has been this intense, just trying to claim back our life force and vital force and energy. So important for supernova souls. Also, Aries is selfish. Aries is containing, say, it's mine, and I'm going to do this with it because it's the I am. It's a spark of creation, and this is something supernova souls really need, this fiery activation of selfishness, because we've been too far on the other polarity, giving ourselves away. Of course, this is one of the conundrums we're in, right? Because it's like the highest spiritual expression in this world is service. And yet we've just been taken advantage of as supernova souls again and again, and then blamed for everything that's gone wrong. And then how do you even offer what you have? How do you even know what you have? It's a deep esoteric depression that we've been living in, separated. But really what's happened, we've been talking about with this Taurus activation, is a great burden that we've been carrying, that we didn't know what it was. We've been running from it, trying to heal it, trying to do whatever we could do to clear those shadow places. And yet this feeling keeps getting more and more intense. And it's the burden of the gifts that you've been given. Now, it's interesting because you could equate this metaphorically with a story about how we've hurt the earth and how our actions hurt the earth and the environment, and how we need to atone, we need to pay taxes, we need to fix it and all this. And really, it's actually the corporations, but we've taken personally responsibility. And we need to, right? Because we need to come back into communication with Mother Earth. We need to feel like a whole organism. You know, we need to come back into oneness. That's the truth of who we are. And but this is the quandary, because this is the deep place that we're going in, this esoteric loneliness, Because when you do take your power back and choose your own way and go your own path, and it's like, and this is the feeling, this is part of what is happening on a deep psychological level for supernova souls. It's like leaving a narcissist relationship, and for all of humanity. And you always get this message like, oh, I'm the only one that'll love you. Without me, you'll be all alone. And this is the contracts with our family too, about like the only way you can get your resources and what you need is through us. And it's all control-based contractual arrangements that have been surrounding you for lifetimes to make sure that you never take back your own power and energy. But it's a conflict within supernova souls of like going to take back our energy and then like, oh, now I'm all alone and what's the point? I just want to go back, give everything I have. And actually, this is what we're doing too, because when we break through this, it all merges together. And our selfishness is our service, our containment of our energy, because then we can be a fountain of God's love in the world. What we're doing right now is clearing everything in the way that's in the way of the spiritual love, the truth of who we are, just flowing through us. And it's this power that we're trying to claim back from the Piscean age of mystical spiritual revelation. So that's really helpful energy right now because Venus, okay, so Venus is just moving into Cancer today. So a big shift of energy. We've got those squares coming off. The moon is out of Scorpio now. It's like, oh God, what just happened, you know? But Venus moving into Cancer means that she's going to be coming into a trine with Saturn at the very beginning of Pisces. Saturn makes it to 6 degrees this week. So apropos that they come into this trine at 6 degrees as we're claiming back our humanness. And Venus really speaks to our humanness. Venus is our vulnerability. It's our connection to our sensitive side, our emotions, our intuition. It's our connection to the earth and to love and nurturing. And Venus is comfortable in Cancer. And there's an energy of like, okay, wow, we just went through this huge activating thing, and now we need to rest and go with the flow and move with the energies and learn to receive, to rest and receive, to prepare for what's coming for the next chapter for supernova souls. So that trine with Venus, trine Saturn will peak out on the 14th. And so next weekend, but we're feeling it all week long here. And so it's a very helpful energy to move us in new ways, but harmoniously and without effort, being that be like the water. And the year of the water rabbit, learning to move, co-create, exist in this world in a whole new way, not with our ego and our lower self and our mind thinking we're doing spiritual projects. And so we're believing some sort of believing this pressure. You know, the pressure is on right now for us to come to break through that seed pod, to break through the lower self, to break through these lower constructs, break through the fear and the authority contracts, and come into the truth of who we are. So we're existing and moving in the world in a completely different way through vibration and moving like the water. So Venus in Cancer in trine to Saturn in Pisces. Now Saturn in Pisces, we've had a bunch of trines here and positive transits, and it's telling us that Saturn in Pisces is about rebuilding and reworking the Piscean age. Because Saturn is the laws and rules of our world, a manifest reality, and Pisces is like the spiritual oneness and the primordial soup. And it's also a connection, feeling of connection. Now, the control energies use the feeling of connection and the mystical spiritual revelation of the Piscean age in order to control humanity through religious structures. Again, fear and trauma. You were a key instrument in that, as being the true light that is a threat to the structure of control through fear. So more fear and trauma. You've been targeted with fear and trauma, with incredibly difficult situations in past lives of targeting and persecution of the light that you are. And then you're supposed to just turn it back on. No drama, no fuss, not be scared of it, not feel alone. So that that water trine can really help us. It's like go with the flow, move like the water, be in awareness, um, and allow yourself to adjust and mostly make way for the magic to come back into our world through you. And we can feel this awakening in nature, this when you have that moment, that time to commune. We've got to make time for this. This is part of the pressure that supernova souls are feeling. It's like, what can you do day by day to make your life that temple, to make your body the temple, to claim back your spiritual truth? We've got to do it day by day through our will. And it's hard when you're all alone and nobody gives a shit about what's happening in this world or in this awakening. And to dedicate your life moment by moment to this spiritual truth when everything around you seeks to invalidate it. Welcome to your world, supernova souls, except for that the tables are turning and the energy is flipping. And those that are last will be first. And these are the ones that have been going through the ringer, preparing themselves to be the vessel, to be the light. This when this revelation energy moves through the physical body, it is visible light. It's unmistakable spiritual truth, and it's coming into our world. And can you be that channel? You've already been the channel. You were killed for it. To try to keep you from being the channel now. And so, very powerful energies. And let's talk through this shift that's coming, because we have that Sun Uranus on the 9th and moving, and then beautiful energy holding us with that trine, Venus, water trine, Venus trine Saturn, energy of possibility. Remember, we're spiritual truth. Remember, we're co-creating. Slow down, take back your moment, and move like the water. So the next thing that is happening, so we have a little bit of a tiny little bit of a breather from these squares. So soak that shit up, right? Because we're moving right into our next square. And this is the fact that, okay, so Jupiter is coming to the end degrees of Aries. This is Jupiter's last week in Aries. Jupiter will move over into Taurus and not retrograde back into Aries. So done with Aries for this cycle, moving into Taurus, a definitive shift. And that happens on May 17th. So this next week of Jupiter at the end degrees of Aries is bringing this whole culmination, this last year, this fight for our lives inside of ourselves, inside of our body, our fight to live, our fight to be who we are, our fight to take back our power. And it's just this like grating, grinding, just like pressure inside the supernova soul to really live in frustration at the structures and the systems with Chiron and Aries, the structures and the systems that have kept us from expressing ourselves as who we really are. And we've had enough of it. And so, very powerful energy. If you are trying to break free of something on any level of your life, this is the week to do it, because we've got Jupiter at the end degrees of Aries and you probably don't have a choice. Everything, it's like for a whole year. So last year in May, Jupiter moved to Aries and we had a huge, you remember? It was like, finally, after 2-3 years of absolute confusion and feeling like trapped in some sort of dark reality, all of a sudden, that fire, that life came back and we started to move. It's like, yes, and I've got a picture and I'm going to do it and I'm going to go get back on my path. And then Jupiter turned retrograde. And it was just like from then on, wah, wah. And then from the beginning of this year, Jupiter moving back into Aries, but we've had retrograde the whole time, because Mars was retrograde. And so this is a very powerful week of culmination of the last 4 years of what you've wanted to see move in your life. Right. And it does feel like maybe we were kind of getting the message about throughout time, the control energies using resets, catastrophes to reset humanity, take away the technology so that they can't advance out of their own prison. And it feels like there's been many resets and almost like, I don't know, it just feels like around that time, 2019, just before this whole nightmare started, it's like we were kind of, knocked off of our timeline through this whole thing. And now we're getting back up. And not only are we claiming our timeline, we're claiming it from the beginning. It's the greatest story never told. And the story in the Bible of Jesus and Yeshua and the whole Christian mythology and the whole God mythology throughout time is one little tip of the iceberg of the real story. And we've got to get to the bottom of it. And the only way we can get there is through the truth coming through us. The mystical revelation that may be coming for you, Supernova Soul, is a past life memory of who you really were and what you really did. And this is a powerful story coming through. It's like we're dropping our ego constructs. We're getting out of the way. We're like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm still moving forward. I'm moving with the energies. I'm letting God do the work, and I'm going to show up and play along in the best that I can in my alignment, So we're like losing our ego constructs, which is a big part of how they've kept us trapped, Supernova Souls. Because when we've had these traumatic lifetimes of persecution, a lot, what kind of happens is a part of our soul can get stuck in that timeline. And so we don't have access from the trauma experience of the memory of who we really are. So coming back to this, the only thing that keeps this whole charade, this whole lie in place is supernova souls not knowing who they really are. And we are at the precipice of this. And this is maybe the message we've been getting, like we are at the cutting edge. And it's like, oh God, like I'm not scared enough already. So we're sorting through all of this, and this fire in our belly though is growing because we have these other transits kind of lessening. And so it's kind of like we're all building up to the next square. Now, the next square ironically happens. So Jupiter moves over into Taurus on the 17th of May, and that will put Jupiter in an exact square with Pluto at 0 degrees Aquarius. Pluto has turned retrograde. But here we go. We have the same energy because Pluto going back into Capricorn so Pluto represents our power and exactly what we've been talking about, our unknown power and fear of our. And so in Capricorn, it was about external authoritarian structures that have been in control of our power to the point that we don't even know it's our power. But we know we, the people, have the power. And apparently, supernova souls have access to some power. And we've already worked with, there's no reason to fear it. We've already evolved. We've already worked with it. We're not using external devices. We know and we have an alignment in our heart. We're here for service. We're here for good. We're here for God. We're here for alignment. We're here for the highest ideal for humanity. And we will not waver in that. This is all we need to do right now is set our course in the center, in the way, the center path. This was the message of this last eclipse right there, exactly at 14 minutes, 58 degrees Scorpio, right in the middle. This is saying, hey, you guys, are you starting to see through the divide and conquer agenda, keeping us against each other so that we never see our common enemy? It's been keeping us down for so long. But this house of cards is falling. You can feel it. And it's like great trepidation. But right after that trepidation, right after the puking phase, or along with it concurrently, these truths coming to light, that God light is also coming and flooding into our world unmistakably. And we get to be. We've gone through all of this. so we can open up our heart and let that love come through us. That's all we're here to do. And we did it before spontaneously, emanating light, and we got immediately killed. So you can see how we're at this threshold, and a lot of supernova souls are like, oh, I made it to like middle age and they're not coming for me. It's like, now what do I do? They've kept us immobilized for most of this evolution. That's over now. Incredible power growing. So anyway, this square of Jupiter, so this culmination of Jupiter and Aries, just like, let's get after it, And then boom, Jupiter comes in to a square with Pluto. Now, this square with Pluto is happening at 0 degrees, but it's definitely a precursor of the nodes. Pluto square the nodes, which is peaking out in July and August of this year. And so we're already feeling Pluto square the nodes. And this week is a huge shift because on the 10th, 11th, so much changes. It's subtle changes. Of course, first we got Venus moving into Cancer, Sun, Uranus, explosion of who we really are. And then on the 10th, we start to feel it's when Pluto comes into 3 degrees out of square with the nodes, because the nodes move to 3 degrees. So this is the beginning of the next 6 months, Pluto square the nodes, that will resolve the end. Won't resolve till the end of September into October. And it's like, brace yourself, because this is where we face reality. And maybe that's a good thing, because the reality we've been living is a total lie. But it's uncomfortable feeling, everything breaking down. And haven't we been already going through this? Oh, wait, supernova souls, you're on the cutting edge. You go through what humanity is going to be going through first. And you're just about done with the hardest part. Now we get to the fun. But you can see through that progression that a lot of what came through in the full moon activation and the Eclipse soul group session that we just had end of last week was contracts. Contracts where supernova souls feel responsible for a group of souls that you might have experienced something with. And being a more advanced soul, you took on a role like an angel. And so that created a contractual arrangement that you are the spiritual light. And this is actually keeping us from being able to, you can see that, like, actually we've been dancing around this for quite a while. And I know that you can relate to this. It's like these contractual arrangements where we feel responsible, like we can't leave people behind, but we know it's our time to go. And this is crucial because from the beginning in the supernova story, I got the message that when supernova souls let go of the burden they're carrying, of karma, of responsibility for something they never created, like the Atlantean catastrophes, blaming ourselves again and again for the dark operatives that want to cause destruction and harm for humanity, then it's game over for the control forces. We're carrying their karma. And this is, I think, the way it's playing out in our life, our everyday life, is this responsibility for other souls. Because if we are leading the way and we've gotten our butt kicked and we've gone through hell and back in order to be prepared for this, are we going to just stand here and not allow ourselves to go because not everybody's ready right now? No, we're here to lead the way. So that means we have to be okay with moving into radical joy, the truth of what it really means to live in a body, human soul, expression of God consciousness. Can we receive that while those that have been behind us go into their phase of suffering? We've been carrying their pain for a very long time, and it's no longer appropriate. It might have been appropriate, but anyway, if you feel like this resonates with you, go back and get those events because it'll really help. So Jupiter square Pluto. Now, Pluto, squares with Pluto are always like really intense. And because Pluto's the destroyer, it breaks down whatever's in the way of whatever's not true and real. So it doesn't break down what's true and real. This is very important to understand as our world falls apart. Only what's false is falling apart. What's true and real is growing in strength. That's you, supernova soul. So Jupiter brings luck and expansion and more possibilities. So Jupiter's sitting here at 0 degrees, possibilities of abundance, of owning our wealth, of knowing who we really are, claiming it, feeling worthy of it. And in square to Pluto, about to go back into Capricorn, speaking to where we've given our power away to external forces. So Jupiter this square is a breakthrough. It's at 0 degrees though. So where are we going? We don't know. But we're finally breaking through. We have an opportunity here to completely break through the lower power structures that have kept us in fear and trauma around our own power. Take it back. So Jupiter, because it's such a positive influence in this square, is offering this breakthrough. And for supernova souls, it has to do with clearing the shame where we feel unworthy. And I know it's like, Adrian, you sound like a broken record. It's like, I know, but there must be deeper shame hidden in our subconscious, because why are we still playing the game? Why are we still playing the game in our day-to-day momentary existence? There's got to be something deeply hidden. And this is what we've got to find. We've got to break through it. And the thing is that when the life force, when the energy, when the joy, when the love comes back and floods through your being in the way that it has in the past, you don't have time to be scared. You're too busy feeling excited about the new life and the new world. And this is kind of where we need to be. And allow those people in our life that haven't done the work and haven't been interested and have actually judged us and manipulated and, uh, abused us for doing the work, lifetime after lifetime. Let them have their growth. It's not easy, but it's like we've been in prison long enough now, supernovas. And what if the imprisonment is our own feelings of responsibility? It's completely misplaced, just like the shame is misplaced. Because we thought, oh my God, we caused a catastrophe. We must be God. We must have to fix it. Because we felt so separated at that point. We must be the emissaries of God. We've got to fix it. We've got to figure it out. We took on so much responsibility. And then that became those ego constructs, And these are those ego constructs that have kept us in that lower personality, and that goes along with the past lives I was talking about. It's almost like, so when you were cruising along, perhaps coming into your potential in a past life, fulfilling your role, you were doing something amazing and feeling like you're moving forward, and then bang, here comes the persecution. Supernova souls, the picture is that if you died, you immediately were like, I got to get right back in there and finish what I was doing. But see, then every single lifetime and incarnation, we get a new role, a new clothes. This is the sun in our chart. It's like, what role are you playing? And so each incarnation, we're supposed to have a new role, but now we're still stuck in the old role of something we didn't accomplish. And this is how they've kept us in these lower personality constructs and keep us feeling that we caused the separation from God. We caused the catastrophes, and we've got to fix it. And this incredible burden. I mean, supernova souls, I know so many supernova souls that are doing amazing things and living a life that's just what's inside of them is so incredible. And yet still feeling like they're not doing enough. This internal pressure. And so this is coming to a breaking point. And it all changes once we step into the abundance of who we are and let this love move through us. And be like, I'm on this bigger project. It's not me and mine. And when we're there, it's like we have a polarity shift. And we've had the vortex polarity has been pushing away supernova souls from each other. And then tables turned, magnetically called towards each other. Because it's like, oh yeah, I'm working on this bigger project. It's God's project. And we've been working on it all along. And I've got these incredible deep and profound soul brothers and sister connections that are coming into my life to do this, and they're right there. I can feel them. I know they're there. And so this is kind of, it's interesting to see this, what this, the square is intense, but it's also a breakthrough on all of these issues we're talking about. Now, after that square, Jupiter is going to move right into a conjunction with the North Node. That will be, that doesn't happen till the end of May. But that's where it's kind of like, if we do have this breakthrough, we have this activation with this breakthrough, we're learning how to co-create rather than ego create. And then the Jupiter coming up to the North Node is a redirection, an alignment with that highest ideal. So can we take the activation, the intensity, the breakthrough, and be like, all right, because it's like the message is like, you might not know where you're going, but it's time to head in that direction. And that's exactly what the work we're doing when we do timeline alignments and stuff. It's just like you're vibrationally coming into alignment with the energy of what you've already experienced in a past life, but was stolen from you or taken from your memories, disconnected, manipulated away. So the timeline alignment is going into the past and finding a situation where you were already embodying more who of your spiritual truth and remembering that. And then that means that every step you take, no matter, you don't need to know where you're going or what you're doing, but every step you take is heading in this direction. And so it's powerful because Juno, the asteroid Juno, which represents commitment, partnerships, soul contracts, is in Gemini. And coming into a square, this will happen on the 13th with Saturn. So we've got Venus trine Saturn, beautiful, harmonious, moving with our intuition, trusting our intuition again. And then Juno is kind of, so Juno represents broken contracts and betrayal. And it also represents deep, profound soul connection. And so in square to Saturn, it's saying these deep, dark control forces that we gave our commitment to through narcissist relationships and our family dynamics, ancestral control contracts, and things like that. That's what's keeping us in the Piscean age. It's also what's keeping us from making room for those deep and profound, true soulmate relationships, which is every single one of your soul tribe is soulmate, right? We're finding this. And yet, how do we feel so alone? Because we've allowed ourselves to be quarantined. So that's a really interesting dynamic there, breaking betrayal contracts. And that's interesting because Pluto moving back into Capricorn, we're looking at all the contracts around where we've given our power away on all levels of our life for good. Because when Pluto moves back into Aquarius in January 2024, we'll not go to Capricorn again. Okay, so we've got to get these contracts. And so really powerful energy that Jupiter square Pluto peaks out from the 17th to the 21st, but we're going to feel it all month long. We're already feeling it. We're not quite into the intensity of the square, but it's kind of like a backdrop energy. And it's also speaking to that Pluto square, the nodes. So we are still in eclipse season. The resolution of eclipse season doesn't come until the following lunation after the last eclipse, which will be the new moon coming up on Friday, May 19th. So we've got this Sun Uranus and then coming into Pluto, Jupiter square Pluto. And then Mercury will turn direct right then. And then on the new moon on the 19th, Mercury turns direct on the 15th. On the 19th, Mercury moves out of retrograde shadow. Jupiter comes up to that North Node right at the end of the month, right when Mercury moves out of shadow. And then Mercury will catch up to Uranus. And that's kind of a big marker. That first week of June catapulted in a new direction because Mercury's finally out of retrograde shadow. We got out of that Jupiter square Pluto and Jupiter North Node Mercury direct, moving again. And then Mercury finally catches back up to Uranus on the 5th of June. And so that's where we meet higher mind and the lower mind. And we could get a lot of clarity and new direction and feel confident moving forward, even if we don't know where we're going or what we're doing, because it's a co-creation and we don't have our people yet. We only have one little piece of the puzzle. So how can we see the big picture? But we can head in that direction resolutely, undeniably, completely in our whole being. And this is what's asked of us right now. If you're there and coming into the way, then it's harder to get caught up in the stories and the dramas and the things that are trying to distract us and the lower contracts of responsibility, because it's like you can tell that those energies aren't in alignment with where you're going, and you don't give a crap where you're going. You just want to feel in alignment, and let's go. So incredibly powerful energies. Let's stay connected and talk through this astrology. Thank you so much for your support. Remember that for $10 a month, you can get a Friday update, the Supernova Soul Tribe membership. Also, we have a Q&A coming up, so sign up this week to be a part of the live Q&A this Friday, the 12th. And also lots of resources for Supernova Souls that can be very helpful. And then the gold membership gets you into the activations and live sharing circles. If you don't want to miss an activation, $20 a month, that's the one for you. But just you being here, paying attention to the messages, receiving, bringing your energy to these videos is being a part of this group. We know we have a massive revaluation of what really matters, what real wealth is. And Supernova Souls, that's exactly the process we're going through here with this Taurus explosion. So very powerful energies. Mercury will turn direct on the 15th and at 5 degrees. That's just 1 degree away, now 2 degrees away from the North Node. The North Node will be at 3 degrees Taurus, so it's like Mercury's backing back up. And it tells us this whole retrograde, it started with an almost Uranus conjunction, ends with an almost North Node conjunction. So it is a redirection forward and very powerful. 2 more months of this, the signs, the nodes in Taurus and Scorpio. Did you get the message? This is a massive completion, culmination, preparation, breakthrough. Everything that's still hidden must come to the surface. I'm so glad we're here together, Supernova Souls. Do not forget this in this intense time we're in right now. There is a bloom of the forces that want us to feel separate and alone and ineffectual, and it's absolutely not true. Because you being here, listening to this message, embodying this, tapping in and connecting with your Supernova Soul Tribe and what we're going through right now, you're doing it. We're here, and we already won. So let's move into the celebration. Thank you so much for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.